Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about the current Gladiator Circuit meta. Now typically I do make a predicted MVPs video for the metas, but this time around there was just a ton of things happening and it kind of slipped my mind. So my apologies for that, but now I can actually tell you what has and has not been working for me, what things I'm thinking of trying out. But I will also be making a separate feedback video about this meta because I think Battlegrounds have taken quite a poor turn recently and they definitely are significantly less enjoyable, partially because of AI and partially because of the metas. But I'll leave that for a different video. So we still have Cerebral Control, which basically, boosts up science characters. So that means Mystic characters by default are significantly more poopy on defense in many cases. And then the nodes that we have to contend with are Buffet Overtime, so we all know what that does. Powerful from afar, which is the biggest problem node, and Energy Resistance, which honestly feels like it should not be there. It feels like completely redundant, and in already a relatively tricky meta, it just it doesn't make any fights harder, it just eliminates more matchups and more champions that you cannot use, and that is where the biggest problem with this meta kind of lies. But that said, obviously, energy-based stack champions don't work in this meta, really. A few of them do, there is a way around it, but, that energy resistance doesn't actually alter the fights, it just eliminates parts of your roster that you may not use. Powerful from afar, by far the biggest problem node here in this meta with the current AI, because, honestly, any fight, even if you have good counters that in theory work on paper, can just go sideways. I have had the same fights against the same champion with, drastically different results just because of it. Like, at least 3 or 4 times I have finished a fight against Domino using a legitimate counter, with like 3k points, because Domino just doesn't use a special attack, gets level 3 and you die immediately. So, horrible choice for a node currently with the current AI issues. Without any kind of like enhanced special attack nodes or whatever, it just is awful. Right, so let's break it down. Let's start with Korg, and quite a few other skilled champions are supercharged in defense right now. So Korg Kingpin is an incredibly annoying defender because his special attack takes time, pushes you away. Meanwhile, Powerful from afar fills his power bar. He has increased combat power as it is. And effective end result is that you just end up stuck in a loop where Kingpin throws special 1s or special 2s and you just need to dex away, and then he triggers Buffet, especially if he gets to level 2 and if you have to dex it, so he ends up healing. And Kingpin is absolutely awful this meta, and Killmonger is rough as well as Korg too. Offensively, the best skill champions I really have seen so far is like Black Cat, does decently well, and I have seen people put in work with Massacre as well, but largely skill class doesn't really work too well offensively because skill class doesn't really have any AI modifiers, as in like aggression modifiers, and no real power control, so that kind of hurts them a bit. From mutants, Archangel is one of the MVPs because obviously Archangel shuts down everything and all of that BS is just completely destroyed. He can shut down Powerful from afar, he stops the healing, so he stops the Buffet node as well. And yeah, Archangel's insane. Onslaught is crazy good. Obviously, people still haven't really learned how to fight him, but yeah, no, Onslaught is kind of like a automatic round win pretty much. Domino is going crazy at the moment because as a defender, most of the champions that people typically use to counter her just don't really work in this meta because they rely on buffs or have buffs, and or are doing energy damage. And because of it, and because of Powerful from afar, she continuously keeps gaining more power. As she does so, she continuously goes lucky, you continuously go unlucky. And yeah, Domino is quite a rough fight as well at the moment. And one mutant that I think people should be paying more attention at the moment is Toad, because Toad, violates most of the skill class, and a lot of skill champions are really, really rough as a defenders, giving you very limited amounts of openings or time to hit them before you need to bait the next special attack. So I do think Toad can do a lot with that, and if you have a highly ranked Toad, definitely test him out. Future Ant-Man is another nightmare of a defender. At the moment, offensively, he's borderline unusable because of the buffet node, or at the very least, he's significantly harder to use. But defensively, again, a lot of the champs that would normally counter him don't really do that well. One of the few tech champions that work very well in this meta is Lady Deathstrike, because you can be super aggressive with her, and then, you know, aside from your initial armor buff, you just need to trigger the buffet node before she regains her armor, and then rest of her stuff is passive, and she does the physical damage with raptures instead of energy damage. So she's actually one of the tech champions that works well. Warlock is very, very solid in this meta also because of his really good power control and ability to shut down healing. Shocker seems to be putting in decent amounts of work as well, especially after his buff. I've seen people run at the higher levels, even a rank 4 Shocker. Again, he has no buffs in his kit, and for a tech champion, that's somewhat rare as well, and he's definitely doing fairly well. Shuri doesn't work offensively again, and this is one of the hallmarks of this meta. We have quite a lot of champions that are insanely hard on defense that do not work offensively because of the energy node or because of some other nodes. Shuri again doesn't do much offensively in this meta, but because of her long special attack animations and the fact that she pushes you away, she's one of the toughest defenders in this meta, for sure. She's very, very tough to deal with. One of the few tech champions that does well, again, is Mysterio. He does have some power control. He has a passive heal block. You can counter Domino with him. But again, I have had 55-second fights with Mysterio against Domino with, you know, perfect health. And I have had fights where I have 5,000 points and I get KO'd by a level 3 because Domino just doesn't throw a special attack. So that is one of the frustrating things in this meta at the moment, where it's entirely AI dependent and AI has been awful. Maestro obviously is still holding down the fort on defense extremely well. One of the few Cosmic champions, if not the only Cosmic champion that works really well offensively in this meta, is Galen, because obviously he's immune to Nullify, so you don't need to worry about any of his buffs. You can remain relatively aggressive with him. And yeah, Galen works just fine and is basically a must-add for a Mystic class, for a Cosmic class. And then in the Mystic class, we do need to take a look at a few champions as well. America Chavez is one of the MVPs. What you do need to know about her, though, is that her special 2 is basically all energy projectiles. So her level 2, what's the best way to put it? It's entirely RNG dependent. If you crit, you can bypass the energy resistance and you can still do damage. But if you don't crit, you basically do no damage. However, her base damage is still very high, especially if opponents have buffs. And the coolest thing about her is the fact that she can reverse opponents' power gain. So because of that, you can be really aggressive. You don't really need to bait out many special attacks, because with 2 stacks of Utopian Parallel active, you actually reverse Powerful from Afar, and you can push opponent red, and they're going to go back to 2+ bars of power pretty much immediately. So Chavez has been absolutely beasting it. Juggernaut still works kind of fine. With Juggernaut, obviously, Buffet node will trigger initially, but what people don't really understand with Juggy Boy is that in many of the fights, especially if the AI cooperates with you, once you get to 10 stacks, you don't really trigger many buffs, and even if you do, you still have the staggers and you still have the nullifies. So Juggernaut still, you know, is very, very worthwhile attacker, especially with how limited this meta is and how good Juggernaut is offensively. Sasquatch is one of the few kind of Mystic quote-unquote defenders that is worth maining, but honestly, I have been using Sasquatch more on attack in this meta than on defense, because again, you can just parry heavy, stagger opponents, Powerful from Afar buff continuously, so get a lot of power very, very fast, and then kind of spam your level 2s. All of these things, yet again, work if AI cooperates with you. If they don't, they don't. Kushala is one of the better Mystic champions offensively as well, even though everything she does is offensive, is energy. She bypasses energy resistance, well, by nullifying the buff, because that is one of the things. Energy resistance in this node is a buff that you can nullify, and once you do, obviously, you can do energy damage. So if your champion has the ability to Fate Seal or nullify or get rid of existing buffs, you can actually use energy damage champions, and that is where Kushala belongs. In addition to that, Kushala's one of her blessings also makes opponents more aggressive. That is the heavy attack one. So when you drop a heavy attack on opponent, they are more likely to activate special attacks, and you are more likely to have a reasonable fight. Hood seems to be doing well is also because you can, fate seal the buffs from powerful from afar and from energy resistance. And then Hood is one of the best mystic characters to be played right now. Tiger does phenomenal because she again neutralizes the powerful from afar buff. She neutralizes the buffet node, and on top of it all of her damage is physical. So Tiger has been my personal MVP. I think Diablo should be working very, very well also with his poison damage and his nullifies, because if you have your Nullify Blessing active, powerful from afar buff also can get nullified, and that will feed your Mystic Dispersion, on top of the fact that, you do a lot of poison damage. And you will have extra buffs to nullify, so you will gain extra power. Then we have Dr. Doom, similar thing, he's an energy damage champion, but you get to continuously stagger the powerful from afar buff, and you get to nullify the energy resistance, so that's super helpful. And the best class, obviously, yet again, for the meta, how exciting, is the Science class. Now, I love Science class, but it just, is getting old. Spider-Ham has been by far my absolute MVP champion. I actually got Onslaught down with Spider-Ham, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, no, Spider-Ham has been crazy because obviously he does a lot of power sting damage. Debuffs can mitigate the healing. Taunt make sure opponents throw special attacks most of the time. Sometimes I just ignore the fact that Taunt exists. And Spider-Ham has been one of the MVPs for sure. Overseer on paper is pretty much perfect for this meta as well, because if opponent gains a bit of extra power because of powerful from afar, that means that you ramp up faster, as well as your immunity to nullify means that buffet node is irrelevant. Overseer is a champion to look out for in this meta for sure. Then we have Titania, immune to buffs, and if need be, she can also tank a level 3, so that's super helpful. Scorpion has been the absolute MVP for me. Again, in between his Petrify and Taunt, he just seems to do so many matchups. I almost never pass an opportunity to draft him. I have seen Silk does, reasonably fine. Morbius functions reasonably well in this meta as well, because he can get his glide nullified, and that, will let you get the passive one. And once you do, you can get more bleeds, and you also have the Petrify, and you can also reduce opponent's power again further. And Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic, if you have highly ranked Mr. Fantastic, he works just fine, because again, you can benefit from reversing the buffet, regeneration, as well as powerful from far node. And yeah, Mr. Fantastic works very, very well. So those are the MVPs for this meta. I will be recording a separate feedback rant video, because I do think that Battlegrounds are going in the wrong direction in general recently in terms of its enjoyability and the way the modes are built, as well as the fact that AI makes them almost unplayable or significantly less enjoyable. And those are problems that just have to be addressed, and soon. Anyhow, let me know which champions have been working for you offensively and defensively, and I will catch you guys later. Bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about